And now I will introduce Congressman Wolf as the ranking member of the House Appropriations, Commerce, Justice, and Science Subcommittee. He is the most senior of the 11 members of the House of Representatives from Virginia and is serving his 15th term in Congress. Congressman Wolf has been a terrific champion of smart, effective reentry strategies that increase success rates for people released from prison and jail. He was instrumental in increasing resources available to state and local governments through programs authorized under the Second Chance Act. I bring to you Congressman Frank Wolf.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. You all are the experts and quite frankly have forgotten more about this issue than I will ever know, so I appreciate you're here. I also want to thank the Pew Foundation and Council of Governments, state governments for doing this. I want to pay particular thanks and tribute to my chairman, Alan Mullihan, and I'm not sucking up for him to get anything out of him. I mean this seriously. These hearings that Alan had really triggered this. Had the hearings not been held, and quite frankly, they were held without my consultation. He never said, I want to have these hearings. What do you think? We would not be here. And so I appreciate Alan for taking the leadership to do this because prisons and prisoners are the forgotten group, if you will, of our society. So I particularly want to pay a tribute and thank Alan for doing this. We've had 234 years of experience in prisons in the United States. We've had prisons, since the founding of this country. They go back long before that. St. Paul in the Bible was in prison, and so we've had a lot of time to look at this issue and to both be in prisons and to talk to prisoners, and yet so I think it's about time to begin to try to get it right. $50 billion will be spent this year. The figures I've been told was $12 billion 20 years ago, and the numbers that they show are not really a lot of progress. The rate of spending is unsustainable. Unfortunately, we're #1 in the world with regard to prisons and prison populations. And so this summit today, the purpose that we would hope is there would be a best practices, that we would have the 10 things or 8 things or 14 things that really that work, that we know truly, honestly, ethically, morally, decently, they work. And so rather than doing a lot of the other stuff and new research and new this and new that, it's time to say, time out. Let's see what really, really works. What really works. My experiences before I got elected to this job, I was involved in a program down at Lorton Reformatory. Lorton was a hellhole, a place that you couldn't believe it was that way. Your job in this thing was to go down and meet with the prisoner once a month, kind of talk to him, help him when to get out. First prisoner I had, nice guy, talented, unbelievable. He gets out, my wife and I go to his place for dinner, and another month later he's back in prison. Second one I get, a guy who is really articulate, great writer. He was the guy who wrote the newsletter at Lorton. I actually sent a letter to his parole, said, I think this guy should get out, and really, I think he can make a difference. He got out. A month later, he was arrested carrying a television set out. The third guy I got, I just gave up, and I don't know really where he is. So I think if we can find some things that actually work, that people know that they work. Now, I've also been interested working with Congressman Bobby Scott and Senator Sessions and former Senator Ted Kennedy on the prison rape bill. We thought this would be embraced and the Justice Department would just enthusiastically deal with it, and yet the report that came out the other day, this thing continues to kick around, and both administrations, the Obama administration and the Bush administration, really failed to address this issue. But prison rape, no one should be sent to jail and be raped. And some of the stories, so to sort of bring everything together to find a solution. Now, my own prejudice, to be honest with you, is faith-based. I think faith, when I look at Haiti and I hear them interviewing different people down in Haiti, a lot of them that were there because of their faith. And William Wilberforce, who was the one who literally led to the SPCA and the faith involvement of the religious faith in prisons, well, it came because it was faith. So I think a faith-based operation, and I'm sure that Mark Early will mention it, is really the way to go. But also, we need to provide work in the prisons. You got to give a prisoner dignity. You can't put a man or woman away for 10 years or 5 years and give them no work. And the Congress has actually been going on the wrong way because the prisoners have no advocates with regard. So work, dignity, treat the person with dignity, and lastly, community-based programs. And so there's much more that I could say, and I'm not going to kind of get into it with the rest of the comments. One, I wanted to again thank Alan for having the hearings, because you're here because of those hearings, and I think it led to this. Secondly, the Council of State Governments and Pew and the others for coming in and saying, okay, we're going to do this. We'll try to bring together the very best minds in the nation that really understand this to do what we now can put together, the best practices. What we know will actually work. And then with the commitment of the Congress coming together to fund and do the necessary thing, hopefully we can change whereby in 5 years or 10 years we can say there's been a tremendous difference. And it's good to do it now because unfortunately with the budget problems that we're going to begin to see at state and local governments and the federal level, this is the time. But maybe we can have a renaissance in the area how we treat prisoners, almost modeled after, call it the Wilberforce Project, if you will, that Chuck Colson and Mark Early and others, the faith community come in, but to do something dramatic to help those who have no one to represent them. So we can really have best practices to make a difference, to reduce the prison population, whereby we're number 1 in manufacturing and number 10 in prisons, and not just the opposite way around. Thank you very, very much.